For you, in your particular, I'm going to say it, use case.
Don't say it.
Haven't said it once yet. I haven't said it once
yet. I've been consciously thinking about it.
Thank you, commenters.
You know, we counted the number of times we said use case in the last video, and we decided we're not going to say it as much. And so I'm the first one to say it here, so I'm guilty.
The first time I ever took the truck, I don't know if you remember this, you said, I was like, what do I do? I don't know how to drive an electric vehicle. And you said, just get in it and drive. And I do have to say, for somebody that had never done it, and now you're in a pickup truck, I'm used to driving a very small car, it was very intuitive. I may have flashed the bright lights when I meant to turn on the windshield wiper a time or two. But other than that, I have to say the screen, the driving, even the when you take your foot off the gas, it stops the car. I love that. And it was very intuitive. So,
and you thought you were going to hate that.
I thought I was going to hate it.
I think the line that I took away from it that Farley said was they're meeting the customers where they are today. And the acceleration of full EV adoption did not move at the same rate where they were committing investment to. So little bit of a misleading headline when you really kind of look at what the numbers mean, where it's like they're walking away from EV. Their EV sales were still up. The F-150 Lightning is still the best-selling electric truck on the marketplace. And I think the investment post this announcement compared to today is only about a 10% reduction. They're investing about 30% of their working capital against full electric, where previously it was 40%.
All right, let me show you what's in my back seat. I have a bag of peanuts, 2 car seats, kid's bike helmet, blankets, and a lot of dirt.
And from a maintenance standpoint, you've had it now a couple of years?
It'll be 2 years in October, and I've done absolutely nothing. I mean, other than put in washer fluid, that's it. I probably due for some new windshield wipers at some point in the near future, but you know, other than that, it's been trouble-free. It has been great, and I have had absolutely 0 issues with it.
Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave. This is going to be a fun one that I have been trying to recreate for the last 6 months or so. Many of you will remember my good friend Mike Gilbert and his buddy Jay, who both have F-150 Lightnings. And here we are up in Connecticut at the lake house, and we're going to be talking both to Mike and Jay. It was a year ago that we made the video that everyone seems to like, because my idea was, I don't really know that much about the F-150. I mean, I did last year a little bit, but since then, I drove it across country, ran out of juice. I drove it down from New Jersey to Florida, ran out of juice. So needless to say, I've got some experience with the F-150 now, but I just wanted to get back with Mike and Jay and sort of ask them what's going on with their trucks. They have both the same F-150 Lightning Lariats, both in white, rigged out the same way. But you know what's interesting is Mike's a tech guy and Jay is a car guy, and this truck works for both of them. So let's reconnect. We're going to do something special we've never done. We're going to film this video on a boat. So let's get into it. All right, guys, let's go. Check this out. This is unbelievable back here. We've got the Bennington Tri-Hull and some water skis, which you're not going to see me in a Speedo today, just so you know. But check out who is here. We have Mike and Jay and Paige over there as well. We've got the Weber grill. Look at this. Is this paradise? I mean, come on. So let's go out on this boat and talk F-150 Lightning. So a lot has happened since we actually met. You'll notice my t-shirt here, the Out of Spec Coast to Coast, where I actually had the pleasure of being able to drive an F-150 all the way from New Jersey down to Florida. That was with Tom Malogny. He cooked the pizza in his. I don't know if any of you saw that video. I'll put a link to it here. That was hysterical. And we drove down, and the controlled experiment was our F-150, we used the NAC system exclusively going down, which had some interesting issues as far as how you negotiate when you're pulling into a Tesla supercharger, just because of the location of the port. But then we also ran out of juice somewhere at, I don't know what time in the morning, and I had to push the F-150. It is such a gorgeous day here out on the lake. Mike, what lake is this again?
This is Highland Lake in Winston, Connecticut. So this is a man-made lake, early 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah, used to be an old mill town.
Wow. I drove by through the town and I saw the old mill. What kind of, do you remember? Do you know what they used to make here?
One's a sawmill. I don't know what all the other ones was. Yeah.
I'll have to research that and report back.
So true to my word, I said I would tell Mike Gilbert that since he didn't know what the mills were from the town that he lives in, this Winstead, it turns out it's the Gilbert Clock Company, founded in 1871 by William Gilbert. Okay, Mike. And the Gilbert School, originally endowed with more than $600,000 by William Gilbert. Hey, listen, pal, I think you better look this guy up. You may be like the owner of the town.
This is great to come out here on the lake and reconvene. All right, so Mike and Jay, last time when we filmed over at Jay's lot with both the cars, today we're actually not going to be with the I call them cars, trucks. I always do that, Mike. I always do that.
Happens. I do too.
I am.
Still do.
Yeah, so Mike, for those of in the audience that have not actually met you or understand what you have, tell me a little bit about your truck, what year it is, how you use the vehicle, and a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I got a 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. Came over from a traditional EcoBoost 17 Limited. To me, it was the cross-section of transportation and technology that got me into it. And so far, it's the best vehicle I've owned. This is going on, 2 years, few months, and just about 45,000 miles on it right now.
Wow. I know last year when we met a year ago, you had 23,000 miles.
Yeah, I do about 20 a year is about my average.
Right. Okay. And then Jay, you have yours is a 2022, is that right, Mike?
2022.
And Jay, you also have a 2022.
2022, yep. Same truck as Mike, same trim package, same color.
Lariat extended range. I guess we didn't say that.
We didn't say that. Yeah, so I've had it. It'll be 2 years in October. I'm at about 23,000 miles on mine right now, and I primarily use mine in a 30-mile loop. We have done a few road trips here and there, but for the most part, I use it just around town, back and forth to the office, shuttling the kids around to wherever they need to be on any given day.
And do the girls still love the F-150 over the Cayenne?
Yes, for sure. They always want to take Daddy's car, and our 3-year-old always says, "Daddy, I want to go fast."
Fast forward a week later, I ran out of juice again in the F-150 and came in dead last in the race. The Silverado came in first, the Cybertruck came in second, and the Rivian R1T came in third, and I came in like the next day. And I know that Mike he called me up, he's like, "Dave, dude, what is wrong with you?" It's like, if that were me piloting the vehicle, that wouldn't have happened. All right, so Mike, what did I do wrong?
So first off, the second I saw you walk down with that shirt, I knew it was to just razz me. Because when I got the call from you and you said, "Are you sitting down? Here's what we got." And I was out ready to actually meet up with Jay and go skiing and couldn't make it, I was bummed. So I think, listen, for the record, I think I would have done better, but I still would have come in last. I crunched the numbers, and here's why. Every single truck went after the same idea, which was optimizing charging to get there fast. The F-150 doesn't have a great charge curve, as it's been well documented. So my strategy would not have been to optimize charging, because there really is no way to optimize charging. I would have tried to optimize efficiency to charge as less as possible. I would have taken the exact opposite approach Kyle did, where he only rode the charge curve and tried to charge, 16 times more than he needed to. I would have tried to do it as less as I needed to, and I think that would have been the key. I think we could have saved 2.5, maybe 3 hours focusing on efficiency versus charging.
Right, and the challenge, the problem with the battery BMS system is, I think that we had some talks with the Ford about it, and I think that, the BMS just didn't know how much energy was in the pack at the end of the day. So hopefully they've made some tweaks. Jay, have you noticed over the last year any software updates to your truck, meaningful software updates that have come into? I know last time we were talking, there was the conversation about not being able to necessarily show the percentage state of charge versus the miles and all of that. Has there been anything on the software side that you've noticed?
Yeah, I think Ford has done a pretty good job at listening to customer feedback and trying to make the truck better anytime that they can. Nothing overall meaningful. Obviously, I got the Tesla update so I can charge with that. I did get the adapter as well. I was pretty early on in getting it, so I was lucky there because I know there have been some delays to some customers. Other than that, I mean, I just like the fact that they're constantly trying to make things better in the truck from a software standpoint.
Yeah.
Whether it be just optimizing the radio, optimizing, less buttons to push to get to certain screens and menus, things like that. It's really a good thing that they listen, and I've been really happy with all the updates so far.
So, Mike, how's the NACS charging going for you? Or are you still charging at hotels when you need to?
Well, I still try to do that as much. My goal is to optimize as much free charging as possible. I make it like a game. So I have my hotels I use, but it's been a game changer, quite honestly. I said on our very first EV journey that it wasn't range anxiety I had, it was charger anxiety. On the CCS side of that, that's still very much a thing. But being able to hit the supercharger network, the only anxiety you feel now is, am I going to be blocking spots? Are you going to run into people that don't understand? But now it's just get in the car, go. You don't really need to think about your charge plan as much. That's been a game changer. I wish they did a little better job educating at the point of charging, right? Teslas start from the left, work your way in. CCS, start your way right, work your way in. And then in that case, you only lose one charger if it's a full station, where you could potentially lose half of your chargers if people don't pay attention. So
right.
I'd say that would be a suggestion. But other than that, it's been great.
What else is on your mind as far as the F-150 since we last spoke?
Still no Blue Cruise 1.2. I know it's shipping with the new 24s, 24s. It's shipping with the new 24s, but hasn't been out yet for theirs.
Still no lane changing on highway.
Still no lane changing. That's a little bit of a bummer because when I talked to Ford, a year and a half ago, they were saying early 2024. Here we are, August, and still nothing there. So hopefully any day now we get that.
I thought the Blue Cruise, that was one of the things that I found when we did the coast to coast race. It was like I was sitting in my living room. It had an amazing stereo system, not quite as good as the Platinum, but great. And the Blue Cruise.
Yeah.
And all the other guys, including the Cybertruck, they didn't even have autopilot on that thing. So they're all steering and doing all that. So Jay, you're really just more using your vehicle locally, charging at home. And have you done any road trips since we last spoke?
We did. We've done a couple, actually. The one that comes to mind the most is the one that my wife will tell you she was most unhappy about. We went up to near Boston last January when for the girl's birthday. We went up there and ended up, it was about 0 degrees Fahrenheit here, so we didn't get great efficiency. We also were pretty much 99% highway driving, so that cuts down on efficiency as well. And this was before we had access to the Tesla network, so what we had to do was actually charge 2 separate times in the freezing cold for a longer period of time than my wife was happy about.
Well, I think that's an interesting one to dig into, because that's where education, I think, still infrastructure and education around infrastructure comes a long way. So talk about, you went to a 200 kilowatt.
Correct. Yeah, and that was partially my
EV
mistake
Go
too, because we tried to do it in a way that was get as far as we could to the next station and then charge. And we only ended up getting, I think we were pulling in like 72 kilowatts an hour. Or something like
cable
that.
limited.
Yeah,
Right.
and basically we were there for 45 minutes to get us home. And it wasn't an overly far trip, maybe just a few hundred miles total. There was no charging at our hotel, so that was out. So it did make for a bit of an uncomfortable situation on the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Mike. I think a lot of these manufacturers of the charging stations themselves on the CCS side of things, they put out, they say 150 kilowatts, but then they don't match it with cables that can handle the amperage.
Yep.
And so they're limited. I saw this past week, as a matter of fact, this news article that Ford is, listening to customer demand and perhaps stepping away from the EV commitment and going to more of a plug-in hybrid. And then you think about this new Dodge Ram 1500 that's about to come out, the plug-in hybrid, and the power is just incredible on that. What are your thoughts? Is this really happening where they're stepping away? Like, what's going on, Mike?
You know what? I think so. I read a couple articles on this as the news was breaking, and I'm sure you guys will unpack this in greater detail on the pod. But I think the line that I took away from it that Farley said was they're meeting the customers where they are today. And the acceleration of full EV adoption did not move at the same rate where they were committing investment to. So little bit of a misleading headline when you really kind of look at what the numbers mean, where it's like they're walking away from EV. Their EV sales were still up. The F-150 Lightning is still the best-selling electric truck on the marketplace. And I think the investment post this announcement compared to today is only about a 10% reduction. They're investing about 30% of their working capital against full electric, where previously it was 40%. Now, Ford's capital is a lot, so that 10% is a massive amount. However, you know, their idea is the two things that they need to address is cost, which is a real concern, right? This has been well documented. We read it in the comments all the time, like, hey, they make sense. You know, if you can afford an $80,000 truck, a $100,000 truck, they're awesome. But we need more affordable options, and we do. So being able to focus on affordability and range anxiety is going to lean towards that hybrid, that plug-in hybrid. The other thing that's going to happen in the background for them, which is actually something I don't think people are talking about enough, is they're going to be able to spend time investing in battery technology that when they do pivot to full electric back again, or start to increase their focus on full electric, that'll give them greater efficiency. So hopefully then 26, 27, 28 model years, they'll be able to bring those equivalent costs down for all the work they've done on the hybrids in the interim. So it's smart planned. They are a business after all. And you know, they need to make a product that works for the customers, but also works for their shareholders as well too.
So I know that last time we met, you and Paige were not married yet, and I know you are now, so congratulations. And I know you've been together for a long time, but you know what? It's good to have the piece of paper that says you're official. And what was interesting was Paige, she had a couple of comments about infrastructure and some thoughts. Now, I know Paige is driving a hot BMW out there. I saw it, it's on film, and that's a beautiful, beautiful car. But I noticed that you're not driving in an EV. What are your thoughts?
So we absolutely love riding in the F-150, no doubt about that. And especially Rocky here, when my fifth child, when he sees that we're going somewhere in the F-150, he knows it's going to be a fun trip. So no, we absolutely love it. The ride is absolutely incredible for anybody who's never been in an electric vehicle, especially the F-150. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, my only concern, the only reason I don't have one, is exactly what Mike just said with the infrastructure. Am I going to pull up to a place and get stuck, like, you know, sort of Jay and Whitney, and have that frustration? You know, I'm kind of a go person, so I don't like to wait around. Or is somebody going to get upset because I'm taking up too many parking spots? I wish more gas stations had charging spaces, so that there was a convenience store, a place to use a restroom, that type of thing. That's what, you know, I thought, or what I would expect as an EV owner. Yeah,
it's interesting to me that of all the companies that are pivoting perhaps away from EV, that Ford is kind of doing that, right? Because they have the NACS integration now, you would think that, okay, they've solved the range anxiety and the charging anxiety, but it's still. So look, there's a straight line up, but it's going to be jagged. I guess it's maybe not so straight in terms of the growth and all of that. Jay, last time we met, I know that you had said that the Lariat was the right spec, if you will, of the F-150s. And I know that you said you had a good golfing buddy that owns a Ford dealership.
Yeah.
And at the time, last summer, Ford was having trouble selling the F-150s. I don't know if you've taken the pulse of the market, but I was curious, is the Lariat still the sweet spot of the trims to buy? And what have you heard about the sales of these F-150s? Because they're not cheap, right? I mean,
they're not. No, they're not. And I think, like Mike said before, that's that's a big hurdle, and we need to figure out how to make them more cost effective for the consumer. You know, you would think that the work truck version, what do they call the Pro,
Right.
Lightning Pro would be a huge seller for contractors, for landscape companies, people who are constantly just in a 30-mile loop. I feel like would be the ideal work truck for them, but for some reason they still can't get over that hurdle to see that and make it make sense in their heads. Like Paige said, I would much rather drive my Lightning anytime I can versus driving a traditional ICE vehicle. I just think it's just a better all-around car.
Well,
Right.
I think the important part there is the Pros, they sell them every one they get. There's no sales issue on the Pro.
But why
The issue
why
is
it
because they don't
not-
want to make them. They lose too much money on them.
Okay.
So Ford doesn't make as many of them. They don't make money on the Platinums or the Lariat extended ranges, but they lose less money
Correct.
on the more expensive ones. So I think that's where that announcement on getting better with the battery technology, where they can bring their margins down, where they can actually make the Pros make sense. A dealer, you don't see Pros sitting on lots. Pros go quick. It's the higher trim levels. You look at, and iTrack is, you know, what are the manufacturer's rebates and what are the additional dealer discounts on top? You can, in a lot of cases now, you can buy a Platinum for the same amount as the Lariat.
I have a buddy who just did.
Yep.
A guy that I work with traded in his Model Y Performance, and he ended up getting a Lightning Platinum for roughly the same price as what I paid for my Lariat 2 years ago. Now, again, it's a different market at that point. You know,
100%.
they were just coming out. The wait lists were 18 months.
Money
So-
was free.
Money was free. Yeah, I mean, but he, after all the incentives and tax breaks, I think he said he paid somewhere around 81,000 for a fully loaded Platinum.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of hurts for us who bought them at peak of the market. But, you know, I think, again, from a trim level standpoint, that I think they're still making the Flash, right? The Lightning Flash, which is kind
That's
of
a new trim lamp.
it's a trim between the XLT and the Lariat.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the sweet spot for me at this point if I were to upgrade to
Right.
a new one.
Now, I don't want to say anything, Jay, but I think you need new tires. And I actually,
do.
I noticed that Mike, I gotta love it. You went Nokian. First
For
of all,
you guys.
tell me about your tires, and then what do we need to do to get Mike or to get Jay to pull up it? Because I'm a little concerned. There's no way you're making it through this winter with
No.
those fronts.
Definitely not. And, you
So-
know, that is one thing that I guess I'm a little disappointed about, is how fast it has eaten through those front tires. Again, 23,000 miles, and I probably have maybe 5,000 left in them at max, and
Yeah.
probably don't want to go through the winter with them.
Right.
So I know that that's going to be a cost, but I guess in hindsight, I haven't paid any maintenance for anything else. So, you know, it probably all evens out in the long run between, you know, all the other maintenance you have to do
it's
on a traditional ICE
interesting,
vehicle.
how much more wear the fronts have, and you mentioned you didn't rotate them
I did
from
not.
front to back, so that's one thing that probably
Probably
people
would have
should be
gotten
doing,
me
right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
that's
had you
something
done that, you would have had to buy 4 tires. Now you only have to buy 2.
I'll probably just
So I
replace
think
them.
I think it was a good strategy. Actually,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you ended up with the Nokians. What were your choices, and why did you end up going with those? And they look like a pretty aggressive tire. Are they okay on the highway?
Yeah, so I had a triple peak rated tire that I used all season on my old truck. And I drive up to Buffalo quite a few times throughout the winter, so wanted something a little bit more aggressive just in case, right? You don't want to get stuck somewhere. And I had the Cooper tires on my last truck. I loved them. I was going to go with them again. Got to be honest, influenced by the Out of Spec crew and their Nokian partnership.
there
So
you go.
shout out Nokian. Figured I'd give them a shout, give them a chance, and I like them. They look awesome. They look better than the Coopers.
They look good.
Love the look on them. The tire guy, when he puts it on, goes, now it looks like a truck. It's like, thanks, bud.
Yeah.
And my only knock is being an electric vehicle, you can pick up a good amount of road noise. So I'd love to do a comparison, like had I gone with the Coopers versus the Nokians, what would the noise level have been? That's my only knock on them. Other than that, I love them.
But that's not an EV specific tire, is it?
It is not.
Oh, okay. I
Yep.
gotcha. So
It's
it
the
doesn't have
Outpost
foam on the
NAT.
inside and
Yeah,
all-
no
and all
foam
that.
inside. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Jay, have you had any issues with your vehicle since we last spoke?
Only one actual issue is I came back from skiing for a one-night overnight. My buddy drove up to Vermont, and when I left my truck in his driveway, I hopped in to go home, which is only about a 2-mile drive away. The frunk open alarm was going off nonstop, and it is quite obnoxious because the frunk was not open. It turns the radio off, and it's like a nonstop seatbelt alarm, and it flashes a red square on your dashboard saying that the frunk is open, which in hindsight makes sense because if it actually was, they don't want it to blow open on the highway or something like that. So I brought it into the dealer, and they assumed it was a bad sensor, like one of the sensors went bad and they would just replace it under warranty. When they actually tore the front apart to get to it, they found that a mouse had chewed the wiring harness. So, you know, that was a little unfortunate. I was lucky to be friends with the owner of the dealership, and he gave me a brand new, I think it had 13 miles on it, Lightning Lariat, just like mine, to use as a loaner car for the 4 or 5 days till they could get the parts in. So that was nice that I didn't have to be without my truck or without an EV truck, but just a little inconvenient. Again, not a knock on the truck. That could happen to any of the cars these days.
And from a maintenance standpoint, you've had it now a couple of years?
It'll be 2 years in October, and I've done absolutely nothing. I mean, other than put in washer fluid, that's it. I probably due for some new windshield wipers at some point in the near future, but you know, other than that, it's been trouble-free. It has been great, and I have had absolutely zero issues with it.
Right. Now, I know last time we spoke, I know you've historically, this is your first EV.
Correct, yeah.
And in the past, you've been a GM guy, right, with the Tahoe? And
I've been kind of all over the place.
have you?
Yeah.
So brand loyalty is not something that's super important to you?
No, I've had everything across the board, honestly. But I thought that the Ford made the best sense for me. I think it was the best EV truck out there. You know, the Rivians do kind of pique my interest a little bit. I just think it might be a little too small. But again, I haven't had any experience with the Silverado yet. I would like to take a look at that and maybe drive one. I know that as the new EV trucks or EVs in general come out, the big headlines are always, oh, it gets 400 miles of range, 500 miles of range. But in reality, I don't think that that's all that important and really shouldn't be the selling point. You know, range anxiety in the beginning was real, but as of now, I never even think about it.
Right. You know, listen, if you're using this F-150 locally, you're a construction worker, you're at the job site, having Pro Power, is that what they call it, Mike?
Pro Power on board.
Pro Power on board. And the way you use it on your job, just for those who didn't see the last video, you're on the road a lot, and when you get to destinations, oftentimes you need power for your job, right?
Yeah, I use it quite a bit for work. We do a lot of like parking lot activations and things like that, where we got to bring the party to a parking lot, and nothing brings it there like some tunes and a microphone, courtesy of Pro Power on board. But I will say the highlight is my brother recently got married weekend before Memorial Day, and he did a backyard wedding. Super smart. They invested all the money into the backyard to fix the house up, and they had all these different vendors, right? So they had the nice restrooms, they had a bar cart, they had a pizza truck, they had all these things, and every vendor that they talked to goes, oh, you just need a household plug. Just need a household plug. Well, they ran this restroom trailer all day, no problem. But as soon as people started using it, it started tripping breakers right and left. The DJ music was going off. The AC was killing. And what we realized, once I went and got my truck and plugged the restrooms into the truck to keep it going, is it would run on a household outlet on a 20 amp 110. It would run it with the AC and it would run it with the lights. But if the AC and the water pump kicked on at the same time, it would peak to like 2,800 watts, which would trip the breaker. So it was just right and left. We're fighting over it. It's their wedding day. And I didn't bring my truck. Paige drove. And he goes, can you get your truck? Can you get your truck? And then finally looks at me and goes, go get your truck. So we had a friend run back, grab the truck, plug it in, and then the rest of the wedding was beautiful and smooth sailing.
So the headline there is, you saved your brother from getting a divorce on day one of being married. That's Ford right there. I like that. So I got to bring up those Silverado. And Jay, I have this question for you. If knowing you're kind of brand agnostic and knowing the Silverado EV does have incredible range and also charges like a beast, For you in your particular, I'm going to say it, use case.
Don't say it.
Haven't said it once yet.
I've
Haven't said it once
I've been
yet.
consciously thinking about it.
Thank you, commenters.
You know, we counted the number of times we said use case in the last video, and we decided we're not going to say it as much. And so I'm the first one to say it here, so I'm guilty. But in you know, because of the way you use your truck, how's that? Is that better?
Perfect.
You know, the Silverado EV might be overkill, right?
It probably would be. I mean, again, if it would have probably made it back and forth to near Boston last year. I don't know what type of efficiency it gets compared to the Ford. It may have made it, and it may have solved or avoided an argument with my wife. But
Yeah.
you know, again, it wasn't, to me, I don't mind stopping and charging. It wasn't that big of a deal. But to keep the two young kids entertained for 40 minutes, you know, was definitely a bit of a task.
Right. Well, listen, I think we're going to drop Jay off at the dock. He's got to go attend to the wife and kids, and then we're going to continue on with our chat here. But Jay, thanks for joining us
You're
today.
very
really
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me
And
again.
it's always good to see you, and congrats on keeping a truck for 2 years. I've never done something like that before. So, all right, Jay. Well, listen, thanks again for coming out today, and
Absolutely, I'm happy to do it. We'll have to do another one.
absolutely. See you later, pal.
Take care.
Since I started getting down the rabbit holes of EVs, right, the one thing I've done is I've pestered you about going electric, right? Because I want a second EV. Really, I just want a second car. What stopped you from making that plunge or giving in to my peer pressure?
Well, first of all, I have the best of both worlds currently. So whenever I want to take the EV, I take it. And I absolutely love it. And I don't drive that far. So I go basically to the gym, the grocery store, and to my office, and that's not too far. So then I say, why, do I need to do anything when I want to take his truck? I just
But
take it.
one would argue you're the perfect use case for an EV. Is that you would only ever charge from home. You'd never need to deal with that infrastructure that you talked about.
Okay.
It's stressing you out.
I'm not an
Am I
early
selling
adopter.
you yet?
No, I'm just not an early adopter. I'm a wait and see kind of girl.
Okay.
That's probably why it took us
I'm an
12
early
years to get married.
Fair.
The truer words have never been
Yeah.
spoken, Mike.
Yeah. It stung a little bit, but we're all good.
Look, we're all in sales. Some sales take a little longer to close the deal, than others.
Still
That's all.
closed it. Is there anything new in the 24 and then coming 25 models that would kind of have us going? And there are some really nice additions, right? So I do think everything we talked about liking the F-150 Lightnings is all true, but efficiency is not awesome. There's no heat pump. In 24, they added a heat pump. We talked about the fact that Blue Cruise 1.2 is still not available for download hours, but the 24 ship with them. Aesthetics, a lot of people complain about it. I think it's 6 or 1/2 dozen another, but the faux charge port on the opposite side, on the passenger side, that's gone, and they just have a logo. A lot of people think it looks cleaner. So I think there are a lot of nice advantages to what they've done in the 24. I just don't know that it's enough, even with the amount that I drive and even where I go in the winter, to go, yeah, it's worth upgrading and buying a new truck.
And not only that, with the price of used EVs and where there's that you would take a bath.
Oh yeah.
And with interest rates as high as they are right now, the manufacturers have the ability to throw cheap money at the new, right?
Yep.
And offer 72 months. Now, I haven't really followed what Ford's been doing lately, but right now Tesla's offering 1.99% money as an example for 72 months.
Yep.
When if you were going to go out and get a private car loan, you're going to be spending close to 7%, even with excellent credit rating.
Yep.
So the first time I ever took the truck, I don't know if you remember this, you said, I was like, what do I do? I don't know how to drive an electric vehicle. And you said, just get in it and drive. And I do have to say, for somebody that had never done it, and now you're in a pickup truck, I'm used to driving a very small car, it was very intuitive. I may have flashed the bright lights when I meant to turn on the windshield wiper a time or two. But other than that, I have to say the screen, the driving, even the when you take your foot off the gas, it stops the car. I love that. And it was very intuitive. So
And you thought you were going to hate that.
I thought I was going to hate it.
What's interesting is, so I talked to an engineer at Ford, and they say only, and I might get this percent wrong, but only like 6 or 10% of people drive with one pedal enabled, which I think is crazy because it has
like
me
that.
thinking like, why do we need a second pedal?
That's the
crazy.
intelligence of, I feel like you're a tech, you said you like the
Yep.
EVs because you're a tech person. That's the intelligence that you get it's like, why does a 3-year-old know how to use an iPad? It's just so intuitive. It makes sense. Why do we have brakes in the first place if you can just take your foot off the gas and the car stops? So.
Yep.
All right, so one of the benefits of this Ford F-150 Lightning is the onboard Pro Power, or Pro Power onboard. Mike, can you explain to me what you have going on over here? Because this is like, it's like having your house coming with you.
In some cases, it's better, right? I told you when we were out in the boat, we saved my brother's wedding. Maybe a little bit of an overstatement. I like to think we saved the wedding, but the whole thing here is, we have a total of 9.2 kilowatts of power available on board. There's a 30 amp 220 outlet, and then I got 4 120 volt plugs here. There's 4 120s in the front, and there's 2 120 plugs in the bed of the truck too. So we got plenty of power. Like I said, the first time and throughout today, I do a lot of like backyard or parking lot executions for work where I need power, I need fans, I need ACs, I need PA equipment. All runs off here. Running PA equipment, I could run this thing for about a 6 to 8 hour event, and it pulls about 1% of battery out of there. So it's super low.
How is that possible?
Just got to make sure you turn the climate off. If the HVAC is off, I mean, it's dribbling. It's not a lot of power. It's a big battery, 131 kilowatt battery. So you're good to go for everything you need.
Now, do they still offer the F-150s with a small battery pack and a large battery pack?
They do.
They do?
Yep, they do. When you get into the Lariat, it's an option in the standard. Platinum is only available extended. And then I believe Pros are only available in extended for fleet.
I got you. Okay. And so, generally speaking, I have not heard many people saying that they have big mechanical problems or anything with these vehicles, except for the fact that the BMS, that somehow I screwed up the BMS 2 times in a row. And by the way, I may not look that strong, but I can push this truck up a hill. I mean,
not a lot of people drive for 3 days straight.
Every vehicle has issues, right? There's always little things or little niggles. And now that you've been living with this vehicle, and you said you have what, 46,000 miles?
Just about 45,000 miles.
45,000 miles on it. That's a lot of miles. What's gone wrong?
Yeah, so fortunately, no big mechanical issues have gone wrong. But I mean, it is a big piece of technology, honestly, at this point, and technology always glitches, right? So there's been a lot of small glitches. The phone is a key. Sometimes, like, the app will force quit. I don't know if that's a iPhone thing or a car or F-150 thing, but I'll have to, like, go to touch the handle. It doesn't open. You got to open up the app. The app opens, then you open it. So annoying, but not a big deal. All you got to do is that. There is something that kind of scared me the first time it happened because it's the electronic gear shift, right? Which some don't even need it. You just swipe, the Tesla just swipe on a screen, right? So it'll almost be finicky sometimes when you go to like put it into gear. You got to like kind of press the knob, hold for a second. Don't know why that does it. But then you start panicking, you start jamming it around. You can't get it into gear, but that's been a little bit of an annoyance.
How about the screen?
So here's the thing. I have, and if we want to kind of follow to the truck here, this is the 15-inch screen. This is the premium screen. Everybody that gets into this car says, oh my God, this screen is awesome. This is a hot take. I actually don't like it, and I think it would be better if it was available to get the 12-inch, what they call the standard screen, because here's why. The only part of this screen that is usable is from here to here, which is 12 inches in a vertical format. All of these other things down here, the static HVAC controls, when you go to the 12-inch screen, they're just buttons. You can't change them, you can't move them. Sometimes they're annoying to hit. So this is essentially a usable 12-inch screen that forgoes physical buttons in place of it. I find that super annoying, and I don't like the vertical format. I think horizontal format works a lot better.
And with respect to Blue Cruise, we all know that it's kind of crazy to me that 1.2 is still not available on. It is available to standard 24s, but they didn't make it available for the 22s or 23s. But the eye, this little device right there, that's what's actually looking at your eyes. Is that right?
Yeah, and you're probably picking it up as flashing on the camera. We can't see it flashing. I will say, I'm sure it's a safety thing, and it's probably a good thing, you know, disclaimer, but my only knock on Blue Cruise is when you go hands-free, this thing yells at you so quickly. It's so annoying the way it does it, and once it catches you once, it gives you less and less time each time. And sometimes it's like, I'm just looking at navigation or I'm looking down at the screen. You know, it's not like you're over here texting or anything. I feel like it needs a little bit more, you know, latitude and maybe subtle ways to remind you.
One of the things that I noticed was when it was going in and out of Blue Cruise versus just the regular lane centering and adaptive cruise, you don't realize the indicator was very small. That would tell you that you're hands-free versus non-hands-free. And as a matter of fact, I may be wrong, but you tell me, I remembered a couple of times when it wasn't even doing hands-free and it didn't let me know loud enough.
Yeah, you got to know what the icons mean.
You got to know what the icons mean.
And I will say,
I think they could do a little better job of putting that in your face.
Yep. And where it's available, because it's pre-mapped roads only, I've noticed as I drive a lot in the Northeast here, it is actually worse where we live in Fairfield County because there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of interchange, it's windy roads. So I actually don't really use Blue Cruise almost at all in Southern Connecticut. But as soon as I get onto something like the Mass Pike or I get onto the Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, where you're just going relatively straight for hundreds of miles, it is awesome.
Yeah.
But it's kind of annoying when you're on windy, curvy roads. Even though it is mapped, it just goes in and out of it a lot.
Yeah. Wear and tear as far as the seats where you get in and out, they look really...
They look clean.
They look pretty good.
And this is probably more user error than me. Is like I wear a brown belt a lot, so there was a lot of dye transfer that I didn't kind of catch early on.
Yeah.
And I've tried a couple times. I haven't taken it to a dealer yet, or a detailer, I should say. That's been a little bit of a wear and tear, but other than that, seats have held up pretty good. You know, bolstering's still good.
Yep.
Yeah, for the most part, it's held up pretty well. Like I said, just sometimes that little gear shifter just gets a little annoying sometimes, and the phone is the key glitches. And again, don't know if that's an iPhone thing or a truck thing.
All right, well, Mike, I know Jay took off a little bit earlier, but thanks again. This is, it's great to reconnect. You guys are still super happy with your trucks.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been anything major wrong with them. And that by itself is a big story. So I just, you know, I love these things. They're like living rooms on wheels, but yet they're amazing if you want to take them to the job site, or you can go out to a, you know, date night, or you can go to the construction work, or you can take them on a road trip, or you can
save a wedding.
Set up a wedding, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. So listen, you know what? F-150s, you know, they're great. They're really amazing. So thanks again, everyone, for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave. Thank you, sir, as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we have some other things we can talk about in the future as well. But appreciate it. Everybody have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye-bye.